Tes, tes, tes. Tes. Tes, tes, tes. Tes.
Halo Dik,
Halo, halo.
mau di accept sekarang atau gimana?
Langsung masukin aja kali ya.
Tapi putar lagu dulu kali, mungkin.
Bentar.
Sama full screenin dulu.
The world is ending.
Suara udah denger kan lagunya?
Dengar.
Oke.
Itu nggak ada ads lagi kan di tengahnya. Lucu juga tuh kalau tiba-tiba ada ads.
Nggak lucu kalau ada ads.
Binomo lagi di tengah-tengah.
Udah lah ya. Coba ya. Tolong masukin Pan orang-orangnya.
Oke.
Oke.
Sengaja atau tidak sengaja. Nah, kecuali ada usul, kita bisa tinggalkan syarat, ya. Kalau ada outlet, kita sholat tidak ada kiblat, contohnya. Kenapa? Karena kita
Muka pria asal Korea Selatan.
everyone. My name is Raivan as the representative of the Committee of Member Virtual Talks. How are you? I hope all is well. Let me first to open this event before we go to the main session. First, I would like to thank to all the participants who have been willing to attend this event. Even though Saturday nights are usually used for rest or hangouts with family and friends, but you use it for sharing and learning together with us. Member Virtual Talks is an event held every month by SPE Java Indonesia section as a forum for SPE members who are interested in sharing their knowledge and experience. Tonight, Member Virtual Talks will be moderated by Mr. Tommy Jamal Jr. as the Senior Regional Construction Manager of Asia Pacific Swagila Company. Let us welcome Mr. Tommy. How are you, Mr. Tommy?
I'm doing great, thanks, Rafandi, and I hope everybody else is doing great. And thanks for joining us on this Saturday night or wherever you are right now.
Okay, Mr. Tommy, the stage is yours, please, Mr. Tommy.
Thanks, thank you very much. So, well, good evening to everyone, or good morning wherever you are in the world today, and joining us with this virtual talks. Just go over a little bit of a housekeeping before we start but please, stay muted during the presentations. You can type in your questions in the chat box, or we will have a Q&A session at the end and you can raise your hand, but we do encourage you to type those questions into the chat box. Of course, wait for your turn and we will monitor the chat box itself. And then please keep your cameras on. We like to have that interaction and see everybody, especially during the Q&A session. So, okay, next. One thing that I would like to start with before we get into the VTS itself is about the SPE membership and the importance of the membership. It's obviously, with our membership and our commitment and with events such as the VTS is what makes this all possible. We are looking forward to continuing memberships, having those new members come in, and also for the renewals. But definitely, there is no doubt that during the last year, we've faced many new challenges. SPE members have continued to inspire and support each other locally, regionally, globally. And of course, through it all, society has maintained its commitment, to our mission. So while providing those new opportunities for industry professionals, bringing greater value and membership than ever before, and again, with events like this. Next, please. Just real briefly, just to go over those membership benefits, for those of you that are not a member yet, we do encourage you to register. And for those of you that memberships are coming up for renewal, definitely renew your membership. One more thing I also failed to mention earlier, we will be recording this session for anybody that would like to view it afterwards. So, but as far as membership goes, the benefits are phenomenal. There's a lot of resources that are available to members, and of course, reaching out to other members. But basically, you got to get started, and that's by registering. You can get connected. The SPE membership itself is pretty innovative these days, and so you can also access it by application. There's a lot of benefits that have actually transpired here for 2022. If you would go to the next slide, I'll give you a little bit of an update on that. Okay, great. So again, for joining itself, it's pretty straightforward in that you can access it by the SPE website for both renewal and for joining. You may contact myself or Ori, who our contact details are right there. But just to give you a little bit of what's new for 2022, there has been some things that have changed, but just to bring you up to date on some important and I think beneficial changes. There is a new installment plan, payment plan option for memberships. So renewing professional memberships, you can choose to pay the membership fee in a single payment or in quarterly installments. You will be able to opt in this program in the beginning of November, so it is not active yet. The JPT digital platform, JPT will be discontinuing the print version of the magazine, and it'll transition over into the digital version. And there's also been a change to the country group 2 due structure. So with the e-membership limited option is no longer available. But regular rates for members who have been in SPE country group 2, those have decreased. However, previous those who chose the membership limited, you may have an increase. So again, I refer you back to the SPE website for additional details. And then last but not least, the renewal process for 2022 is open. You can renew that membership anytime between now and December 31st. And don't forget, with your membership renewal, you will also get 6 free e-papers from One Petro. And that's approximately a $48 value right there itself. So, okay, next. Go ahead. All right, great. And again, thanks for everyone joining us tonight. And I want to kind of give you a little bit of a rundown of our guest speaker. He is an HSE professional with 15 plus years of experience in the oil and gas sector, which is a high risk industry, as we all know, both onshore and offshore operations. His experience includes, but not limited to, drilling, workover, construction, and production. He's received several honor awards through his career and even recognized by the regional government of Balikpapan. He is also an author of a book, also featured in 16 newspaper publications, and a contributor to Pertamina's e-paper called Energia. And lastly, he holds a bachelor and master's degree in occupational health and safety from the Universitas Indonesia, and currently pursuing a doctoral degree in management at the University of Brawijaya. Next. Just to give you a little bit of a real brief rundown of the abstract of tonight's presentation, that human error, again, our presentation is around safety and that, and I think there's always a good time for safety, regardless if it is on a Saturday night, as we discussed earlier. So, but human error is often mentioned as a main cause of accidents. But however, there is a growing concern that that label of human error has become a common means just to blame an individual that is involved. In today's complex operations, we do need to understand that the personnel, the job organizational aspects, and the influence of human performance. By understanding the work and our human nature, hopefully we can accept the fact that error are normal and that people are fallible. Even the best of people make errors. The goal of this sharing session tonight is to enlighten you and understand about human capability and limitation, human error categorization and its differences, the prevention strategy to reduce error and ensure safety or success of operations under variable conditions. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Bapak Samsul Arifin.
Okay, good evening, Pak Tommy. Thank you for your warm introduction. Good evening, Bapak, Ibu, and Bapak, Ibu, Mas, and Mbak. Yeah, would you join me in here? I see several names that I already familiar. So please feel free later on if you want to include in the discussion and give some sharing in our session today, this evening. Okay, let me just share for the presentation first. Okay. Hold on a second, I forgot to plug in the power. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our discussion for this evening is about the introduction to human error, and the agenda is like what Tommy already mentioned. What is human error and the classification of human error? I mentioned we need to discuss this a little bit further, because by understanding the difference between the human error and its conceptual definition, we can have a better mitigation or a proper mitigation for each of the error category. And then the last one, we will discuss on how are some of the example for the human error mitigation that has been in place in some of the industry. So Pak Tommy, maybe 10 minutes before my time, you can give me a heads up so I can speed up or give more explanation if there's enough time, Pak.
Sure, no worries.
Thank you. So before we start, let's have an online survey first, and then let me share you the online survey. The link is, okay, hold on a second. Now, can you see my settings in here? So just go to the slido.com, sledo.com, and then put the keyword or the password there is SPE Java. The question is very simple. So personally, in your guess estimate, how much mistake or error have you done in a single day? So the error can be minor stuff, and it haven't caused any consequence. For example, if we forgot to turn on the mic, the magic comb or the rice cooker, or we put the cold water in our hot coffee that we want to make, or we take a bottle of juice in our cereal mix to replace it, or maybe if you like to cook, you put salt instead of sugar, or anything that you think that is making a mistake. So it also can, the error can also be described as if we should do something, but we didn't do it yet. For example, if we forgot to turn on our road to our home, for example, on the freeway or highway, we need to exit on the exit number 53 or exit at Pasar Minggu, for example, but we just focusing on the song that being played on the radio or the discussion there, and we just unaware that we have passed the exit gate from at our highway. So in here we see that almost a half of the participant mentioned around 3 to 5 error in one single day. Yeah? And then more than 5 is 5, same as 0 error. Wow, it's very good. Yeah, never make an error. Doesn't do an error in one single day. And then, oh, it's still coming. Let's just wait for another one. For example, we also in the new year or for the month of January, we tend to forget the year that the new year when we filling up a form to the bank or something, we just put in the previous year. That also be an error. Or probably we misjudge the space from our parking spot, so we hit a pole or hit a shoulder on the road. That also can be considered as a mistake. Yeah, we don't want to intend. We didn't intend to hit the wall, but we have hit the wall. So basically, 3 to 5 error in single day. Most of the audience have done it in our guesstimate. Okay, thank you. Let's back to the presentation. Okay. So because most of almost more than 75% of the audience believe that they do error personally, in our personal life, but the error fact is that it is quite normal, actually quite normal. James Reason said that is the error is quite normal, just like we breathe on every day is very normal as a human being. And then the research that have been done actually show that we human make an error around 3 to 6 error per hour. So it's very much number is very astonishing number there, 3 to 6 error per hour. And then Alan Hope from the Australian Safety Institute for in Aviation, Australian Transportation Safety Bureau, he do the research in the aviation maintenance technician and engineer. They observe that each of the engineer on average, they all do a 15 observable error in one work shift. That is either 8 hour or 12 hour. So it's plenty number actually. It's a very astonishing number. But we also need to remind ourselves, but most of the error have no consequences, and the error is also we catch up before it can. We are already can identify the error before it causes any consequence or unwanted event. So most of the error have a very little to none consequence in our activity. So, but how does that mean? So, personally, we have. Do we realize that we do an error? But on the professional side, on the work side, we tend to neglect the people will commit an error in their daily life. So we always assume that the operator or the worker will always present, detect the problem that been arise in the production, and then they will immediately take appropriate action fast, and then according to the procedure or the training that have been done. And then also the other pitfall that is been known is that people will always follow procedures. And then they always have a highly motivation, and then they're not prone to unintentional failure, because error is unintentionally different from the violation, because violation is intentional. And then we treat the operator or the worker as a superhuman, able to intervene in heroically in the emergency. So it's very paradox if we understand and we realize that we as a human do an error in every single day, every shift, on every hour, and then the research also show that. But we have this concept that the worker will not do an error. Okay, and then the other one is the definition of the error itself. There's a lot of definition. I will take only two from the Health Safety Executive in the UK. It said that the error can be an action or the decision that was not intended. So the keyword is not intended, and involved in deviation of acceptable standard, which led to undesirable outcome. And then it also can be a discrepancy between action or omitted that have been that the intent. So religiously we have this called niat, and then that they don't mean to do that, but they want to do something else, but their plan or their action show that the other way. So also will before I will start the categorization of the error. There's a picture that is very I like this picture because it said that one size fits all story, but everyone or there is different category of error. and different people have different capability and the limitation. Yeah, I'm talking to Ramayana cells, and then he said, "Oh, this is one fit for all," but that's not. It's different. Every cells have its own fit for body. So in here we can see that the human failure is in the section over here. In the inadvertent, we have an action error or a thinking error. In action error, we have a adequate plan, but our action is not according to that plan. And we can call that a slip, or we can call that a memory-based lapse. We're going to discuss this more in the following slide. And then the second one is that we have a thinking error. Our action is according to what we have planned, but we have inadequate planning, or we have inadequate decision making, and that can be categorized as a rule-based mistake or knowledge-based mistake. I wouldn't discuss the violation, but the difference between violation and error is basically this is the deliberate, the intent that they do that something when they committed doing an act. Okay, the next slide is, okay, what is action-based sleep? In here, the easiest state that we tend to not do what we meant to do, or oops, we have a slip of tongue, we touch the wrong button that we want to touch, or when we're driving, we hit the wiper when we want to turn the rating on the sand, you know, or we do a lot of things that we didn't intend to do. And sleep usually occur where the task is very we have it on our what called we don't need to think about it very much, and we have only a little thought about that, and that is because of the distraction, interruption, or we wandering our mind everywhere. So this is the example. For example, yeah, when we drive and then we forgot to go to the exit that we supposed to go, and then it causes very serious consequence if we try to rectify it in the middle of the road like this. But most of the we're gonna discuss that. So that is the example, one of the example, and the other one is the memory-based lapse. So we forgot something and we lose our place midway through the task, and then this lapse can occur when we have complicated tasks or very long one that procedure that we need to follow. We already have done the main part of the job, and but the finer detail are missed. And then, for example, if we try to fix power generator, and after we disassemble that, and then we want to assemble that again, after we finish, we forgot to put a gasket or seal rubber in one of the section, and then it can cause or the leak, or we don't remember that we need to do pressure, or to tightening the bolt in the pressure that have been prescribed on the manual using a torque wrench. So, and also the procedure can be very not naturally, so we tend to not follow it. And then also the memory-based lapse, for example, in here, so the worker in here, they got been entangled by a hose. When the worker, when the driver already pay for the money, when he filling up petrol, and after he pay, he just turn on left. And that is not very uncommon, because if you see on the Instagram, there's a plenty of picture or video that been capturing that kind of moments. So that is we forgot something or a finer detail on the sequence of the step that we have done. The other one, before I continue, there's some of the lips and laps control. We need to understand that this task is often done by experienced, high-trained, and well-motivated worker. They don't intend to do to have an accident. So we need to understand that workers come to work not with the intent to have an injury. They come to work to do the best that they can and to complete the objective on the task. So the additional training is actually considered not valid or not appropriate for the lips and laps category error. There's plenty of others that we can implement, such as human-centered design, how we consider the human characteristic and how there's attention, or how their visual and then the audio and something like that. Also, we can add a checklist or reminder that can be put to remind them certain steps on the work. And also we can have a independent cross check during a critical task. So we have a third party that will be validating a job or a task that have been done by others, and then these other parties need to have an independency, because otherwise they're gonna prone to the halo effect or other bias. For example, that he will consider that, oh, the guys that doing the task is experienced, and I don't need to check him very detailed about his job because he's already have a higher education than me, or he have a better position than me, so I don't need to check again. Because we need to remember that the worker that do the slip and laps is usually well motivated, high training and experience. So that kind of bias need to be put away by the independent cross check during we need to put on the critical task. And we also can have removal the distraction. That's why we have in our industry we have no cell phone policy during driving, or during the several tasks. We can have a barricade being erected on the scene, or we can have the personnel leaving their cell phone on the receptionist or something like that. So we can ensure that all the personnel have focus on the task without any interruption. And then also the time we can have we try to review the task and then ensure that the task is sufficiently available, sufficient time, because otherwise the guy is going to be rushing to complete the task, and it will in one or two gonna be have a forgot, or gonna take gonna be forgetting one or two steps, because they have a different focus on the goals conflict that they have. And the other thing is that possibly they have a warning or the alarm to detect the error if something happened. For example, if we like in the airplane, when the pilot will lift the wheel, if the sensor still detect that the wheel on the plane have a weight on it, so it means that the plane is still on the taxi or the runway, it cannot pull, or it cannot retract the wheel. So possibly the pilot touching or pressing the wrong button, so it will come up as a warning or alarm to detect that he do something error. And that's it. We need to focus on this kind of intervention to prevent a slip or lapse. Okay, the other ones, before we continue to the rule-based mistake and knowledge-based mistake, I want to share this table about the 6 variety of rule-related performance. I quote that from James Reason's books. And then, so we have rules on our industry. Some are good, some are not very written very good, related to the appropriate of the equipment or the condition that the worker going to be doing. Or some of the tasks not yet have very clear or don't have any procedure at all. But the outcome of the work, they can be 2 types. It can be correct performance or success operation, or they can be error performance, or we call that event or the accident or the near miss possibly. So when we try to put a matrix on here, if there's a good rule and the people performing successfully, it can be considered as a correct compliance. But if there's a good rules and the error and the performance is doing very not good or unsuccess, we call that misfunction. And then this is because possibly we are not using a good rule on we are not putting a good rule in the correct condition. And if we have a bad rule and we try and the people have correct performance, we can consider that as a correct violation, because in 1 or 2 steps, the guys on the worker on the fields that doing the job or turning the wrench, they're gonna violate 1 or 2 steps on that rules. And if there's a bad rule, but the guys have an error performance, we can consider that as a miscompliance. And the other one is that if there's no rule and then the guys do an improvisation, that can consider that correct improvisation, or if there are no rules, can call that a mistake, because there's no rule to guide them in that kind of activities. So I also want to quote one of the Todd Coughlin word, that the more compliant doesn't always equate to more safety. So we have 2 rules that saying the same thing, or but doesn't really related to the field operation. It's not gonna work any, not gonna add another safety on the operational side. So let's give this a try on the rule-based mistake. So the rule-based mistake, that the action is basically we need to remember rule or procedure that we need to do. The mistake is occur if we apply or we try to apply, we put a good rule application on the wrong task, or we applied a bad rule. For example, in here, probably you also already know about the Pi 4 Alpha incident, one of the very famous incident that have been changing the course of our safety in the oil and gas industry. It happened in 1988. There's 167 casualties on that night. And there's a diver. This worker named Ed Conchard. He do what the James Reason mentioned about the correct violation or successful violation. So when the night fire erupt, the regulation or the rules on board is that we need to muster at the galley. So all the people that have been on board, as they've been told, as per the regular training that they receive, they go to the master area, which is located in the galley. But unluckily, the galley is in the line of fire or the trajectory of the fireball. So, and that is erupt on that night on the 11:22 p.m. So at picture, the diver superintendent, when he want to go up to the galley area, there's a heavy smoke over there. So he cancel his route. So he go down to the bottom of the platform. So he become one of the 61 survivor for the Piper Alpha incident. So the driver supervisor, that he committed a successful violation, but the other 167 personnel, mostly mastering at the galley, they're doing in here we can say mispliance. They have a bad rule, and then they have error performance or unwanted event or incident. And the other one is a knowledge-based mistake. Knowledge-based mistake is happen when we have no rule or routine that available to handle unusual situation or novel condition. And then by having this novel condition, the worker need to resort the previous successful experience or training that possibly can be compared to the condition that they experience on that test. But in some cases that is not the test is not very suit with their experience and their training that they have been received previously. So they're doing something that they thought is right, but they're doing the wrong thing. And this I can share about the incident on the 737 MAX Boeing 8. The guys, they make a very well produced airplane, and then that's the airplane is made from a template for 737 that have been built on the 1963. So it's around 50 years of the operation. So. And then they also, but they have a bigger body and more weight on that. So the guys, the guys need to have a bigger engine, but the bigger engine doesn't fit with the plane, with the wing. So they need to put it forward and then to lift it a little bit. But this is creating unbalance in the plane. So the plane will normally have their nose tail up. So the engineer at Boeing installed a system software called MCAS, the Maneuvering Characteristic Augmentation System, which will compensate the movement of the plane. So it will put the nose back down. However, this system have only one sensor, that it doesn't have a redundancy sensor. So when it fault, the plane nose dive down. That is what happened in the Lion Air, the first crash on October 2018. We have 189 casualties from Jakarta that have been they used this brand new plane only 3 months, and then they also happened on March 2019 on the Ethiopian Airlines that killed 157 passengers. So there's more than 346 casualty from these two. So when they are leaving from the airplane, when they're leaving from the airport, the plane sensor have a fault, and then the nose the compensate by putting it down. So the guys doesn't why this plane push down gitu, and then they're trying to struggle, and it's gonna be oscillate to gain control to the up and then go back down again, and then keep going in there until they finally fail to taking control, and then they crash on that cause casualties. So they have done they don't have any rules and procedure, and then that's later on after that the Boeing issues a notice and then how to do, and because there also a lack of training, because the training for this kind of system, a lot of the pilot doesn't aware about this system and how to disengage if they have a faulty sensor and something like that. And one interesting finding is that the sensor alarm for that, the alarm for that sensor is an optional package from the plane, so they cannot buy it as a package on the cockpit. So it's very, they have plenty of finding over there. So that is knowledge-based mistake. And if we want to prevent this kind of mistake, we need to have these several measures that we do. The first of all is that we need to plan all the what if relevant scenario that possibly happen on the operation. We do a drill or exercise for the upset or the emergency, so the people that working always have the proper or the correct response to whatever the situation, the emergency that's going to be happen, or they have the clear overview or mental mode. This can be done by doing a proper handover process with the previous team. So a lot of things happen when people don't do a good handover system, effective handover process. So one of that is we can put it on the writing, or the things that they need to hand over, in the information they need to hand over to the next team, because on the oil and gas we work on 12-hour shift and then 24-hour a day and 7 days in a week. So we don't have any stop on our operation. So the mental mode on the operation is very necessary to have a good grip on what are the situation that they're handling. The other one is the diagnostic tool or decision-making aid that can help the worker to have to get a better decision-making. And the other one is training for the competency and also the organization learning. We're gonna discuss this on the last slide. Now, after talking about that, we now have a better understanding on the different error that have been done, that actually exists in operation, and the different mitigation that we need to have for those different operation. And we need to understand too that there are 3 types that affecting a worker. There are job factor, individual factor, and then the organizational factor. For the individual factor, they also have stress that can lead to diminishing our cognitive capability, right? If you have stress, sometimes we don't think very clear. That's why on some of the exam that we have, some of the exam that we do during the school, we need to avoid the stress, because if you stress, you're gonna be more stupid than you are in free mode. Yeah. The other one is the avoidance mental strength, because we also have we need to understand that the human is reluctant to engage in very lengthy concentration thinking, as it requires high level attention or for extended period. So thinking is very slow, and it's laborious process that require a great effort. So consequently, people will look for a pattern that they see that they can use as a rule of thumbs, and then that have been successful previously. So that will do the shortcut or often use very steps that reduce this mental effort. And the other one, we have limited working memories, and we have short-term or long-term. The short-term, or we call it the working memories, this have only several limitation when we try to remember. Sometimes people will call it 7+1 or 7+1 or -2 for the things that they will remember. So more than 7, it's gonna be hard for the worker to remember if they want to do some tasks. And then they also have this limited constraint, the attention resource. Like I said before, we tend to have when people focusing on something, they will concentrate only one or two simultaneously. The attention is very limited, so our brain gonna be swapping from one attention to the other attention. That's why we are prone to accident when we have a multitasking job when we drive. And then also we have difficulties to see our own error. That's why we need to have someone or third party or independent personnel that can verify our job. And the other one is we have a limited perspective, or we also have susceptible to our emotion. When we got anger and we got humiliated, that's gonna be they're gonna be affecting our performance on our job. So we need to the pride. If we have a pride on the team, the group maybe have a very low critical evaluation on their job because they feel that their solution is better because they know more. So they will have susceptible in the emotion that the group thinking also. We also have fatigue. You need to consider that, and people get tired in this COVID operation. In this COVID operation, sometimes because the next crew have they need to isolate the existing crew, being extending the worker, being extend their shift work. So that will create a fatigue, and then that will lead to the impaired rationality and decision making. So it's gonna slower our attention or vigilance, and the loss of situational awareness, or we're gonna adapt a shortcut to ensure that they don't feel using too much energy on some tasks. And presentation is that when they need to go to work, because they have this feeling that they need to go to work even though that they have sick or they have illness that should be holding them from working. So they're forcing their way to work even though they are not 100% fit, and then that can cause one of the incident. So in here we can we no longer to be amazed why do people that already sick, already feel not very well, they force themselves to go to work every day, because this is one of the human nature characteristic. They have the tendency to present, or they need to belong in the workplace, in the work site, even though they have diminishing capacities. And then the other one, the next slide.
Samsul,
Yeah.
We've got about 10 more minutes we could squeeze in, and then it'll leave us 20 minutes for the Q&A. So we've got 2 questions already, and for the audience, please, put your questions in the chat box. We'd really appreciate that. So,
okay.
But yeah, we can squeeze 10 more minutes, Pak Samsul.
10 more minutes. Okay, thank you, Pak, for the reminder. So then I'm gonna first about a little bit. So if we very familiar with this bow tie method, so the hazard, the source of hazard, and then the event, and then the consequences. So we need to make a work system that can resist error, and also a work system that can tolerate error. The simple things in here, if we look at the ATM machine design, that they're implementing this kind of error. Previously, we got a lot of people unintentionally have their card been swollen by the ATM machine. So the design of the machine, they're now letting out the money first before the card is popping up. So we tend, if the card and the money come out the same time, we tend to grab the money and then put it on a wallet and leave from the ATM kiosk or a spot. Then that's gonna be forgetting our card that has been pulled out. The other one is error tolerance. So if the error act or the error event have been committed, the system need to tolerate error so it won't cause any consequences. For example, if you use Microsoft Office, so if you type something and then we work on an Excel sheet or something like that, and we try to push a minimize button and we unintentionally push the X or close button, it will close the Excel, but the system, the Microsoft Office have been using a tolerate error, so it will show up a pop box dialog that shows, do you want to save this event? Do you want to save your work? Just like that, because it will also prevent us from a consequence of us losing work that we have been typed. And then that's also the last, maybe the last two, we prevention through design. And then if we cannot change our human nature condition, but we can change the condition where we work. So the example in here is in the World War II, when the USA and in the early war in World War II, they have 1943, the engineer over there, the Alphonse Capanis, the US from the US Army. So he noticed that there are plenty of accidents. The USA is this is the bomb carrier plane, but when they come from the mission, in here we have a button to switch up gear to run down the gear, and then the other button is to lower up the wing, and it's very similar. So most of the accident that happen is that when they're approaching to the airport, so instead of lowering the gear, they're lowering the wing and then causing to the plane to land on their belly and catch fire. So in the period of 2 years, they have plenty of accident on this kind of event, this kind of similar situation, because the army, the soldier, when they come home from the war, they have fatigue or they have lose their attention or something like that. And then in the 2 years alone, they have 457 plane crashes. But the modification is very simple. They implement a mini wheel on this panel, on this switch, and then the other one they have a mini wing. So the pilot will have very much easy to identify which one is for wing and which one is for the wheel. So the ergonomic human factor is basically developed more in the defense fields. And in our industry, we have also the Center of Chemical Process Safety that have a guidance on how to prevent human error, and also books from Trevor Glantz. and then the American Petroleum Institute, also the ISO Institute of International Organization Standardization. We have 11064 for the ergonomic design of the control center. Then they also have the reference on how to build a control center that how to manage alarm, so it won't overload the worker with too much information. So this is my last slide. So we need to learn from error, because blame fix nothing. If we try to get rid of the worker or the sharp-end worker that committed an error, and we assume that it will also eliminate a similar event, it won't happen, because the worker is valuable, and even the highly motivated and highly training is also can cause a event. So we need to learn from that, for what are their needs, and then we have to know the feedback from the worker, and then how we can design a system or feedback from them to build trust for them. Because if the blaming culture exists from the higher upper management, the trust will not gonna be built, and then people will hide information. So one of the interesting research that has been done by Amy Edmondson, a professor from Harvard University, that he do the research on several hospital, and then the hypothesis from her and the team of researchers is very simple. The team that report higher error is the team that have a lower performance. But after the study gathering data, the result is very different. So the result is the team that reporting higher error is the team that have a higher performance. So the analysis of that is not because the lower reporting team, the team that have a lower reporting error doesn't have error. They have also error, but they doesn't reporting to the management because they don't have a psychological safety or the feeling for them to safe to inform the mistake or error that have been done. So it will prevent the next accident that they already done. So building on that research, we need to learn to have to build trust to the workers, so we can learn more from the operational side. I think that's all. Okay, this is the last slide. If you want to learn more about the human factors or human performance in the Society Petroleum Engineering, we have a technical section for that, and the human performance for oil and gas, we also have a link, and Energy Institute and International Oil and Gas Producer also have a publication for that. I think that's all, Pak. For the last wording is error is not instinctively bad. I quoted from James Wilson, error is a key part of human learning, and through making mistake, we learn and acquire skill needed for safety and effective learning. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Samsul. It's very interesting. Before we move on to our Q&A session, we would like to get for documentation, we'd like to take a photograph of everybody virtually. So let me see from our side. One second here.
So everybody to turn on their camera, yeah?
Yeah. Bu Dian, are you able to help me maybe?
Yes, Pak Tommy, no problem. I'll take the
Okay.
picture.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll wait for another minute to let everyone turn on their camera.
Yeah. It's a great presentation by Samsul. We've got a couple of questions, and that'll give you some time to respond to those, and hopefully we'll get some more after that.
Okay, come on, everybody. Where's your camera?
It's Saturday night. Everybody's camera shy. So.
Okay, I'll take the camera, the picture now, yeah? There's 4 pages, so bear with me. Okay, 1, 2, 3, cheese, everyone. Okay, the first page. Second page now, yeah, cheese. Okay, the third page now. Cheese, everyone. Okay, and then the last one. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Wu Dian, for helping out with that. So next is our Q&A, and that will take about, well, however much time, but you know, it takes. We do have 2 questions in the chat section, Pak Samsul, and I will be happy to read those to you. First one that we have is coming from, one moment here. Actually, we got a couple more that have come in, I believe. One moment. Okay, so we have our first question that was from Pa Agung Nugroho from Pertamina International EP. Said it was a very interesting presentation. Thanks, Pak Samsul. His first question is, what's the best reaction upon any human inadvertent error? And then the second is, what to improve on those errors, referring to your performance versus rules principles. Thanks.
Okay, Pak. Thank you. Pak Agung is my senior in here.
Oh, okay.
Pak Agung is testing me. Yeah. Okay, Pak. Maybe just a short answer is the first one is, what are the best reaction upon any human inadvertent error? The common type response when we hear an accident that involve human action is the manager tend to say, who's done it? Yeah. So why he's so stupid doing it? So we doesn't understand the context of the tasks that have been taken by the worker. So the best reaction, the first thing I said, if there's a good book called Just Culture, so that's very much very humanistic approach on how do we avoid from retributive just culture to reconstructive just culture. So the first the reaction is for my purpose is that we said that who's injured and what are their needs. So we need to say that and then who's going to be responsible to taking care of their needs, because the common reaction is that who's doing that and who's responsible for that and what is the appropriate punishment for their mistake. So that is what the common reaction, and that is not the best reaction from my opinion, because it will create fear, because the decision to hold accountable who's wrong, who's right is usually coming from the upper level. And how to improve those errors, especially to the performance and role principle, is that we need to understand first that the working system is not fully safe. So human or the old view of the human error is the system is safe and the worker is a hazard that need to be controlled. So one of the mitigation for that is creating more regulation, more procedure to control human, to make them comply with rules which possibly doesn't work very well in our industry that is complex, and then we have ambiguous condition and then something like that, FUCA. And then we need to move to the next concept, which is new view or the safety view. Or to realize, to very much accept that our work system is not very safe, and then human are there to compensate that kind of gap within the system, and then we need to harness the human as part of solution, because the worker is not a part of problem, because they're going to be more things that not going to be covered on the procedure. So we need to have people that have better decision making, better identification on stuff, and how do they have the adequate resource for them to solve the obstacle on the workspace. I think that's my short comment, Pak Tommy.
Okay, thank you, Pak Samsul. The next question we have is from Ida Taftazani. It says here, for some time, a memory-based lapse is so human when I was not aware of the difference of pull and push for non-English spoken country. It is not readily in mindset of the push versus pull, trust me. Meaning on the way that we were designed, the workstation, the color, code, signaling, word, etc., and need to understand the user. And that's her 2 cents of, I'm human, I did error. So that's the
Okay, Pak Iza juga also my senior. I've beat him one. Pak Iza, I think this is not question, but this is additional explanation. So I want to try to bit elaborate that is that we need, correct, Pak, we need to have a design that is user friendly, Pak. If we want to have push, then the handle of the door doesn't need to be, cannot be pulled. That's gonna be easier for our that's gonna be more logic for our sense. If we have a handle that can be pulled, but the wording is push, and we try to pull it. So I think the design workstation, the color code or signaling, the wording is very much you have put it over there. So we need to have put a human-centered design on our operation. Thank you, Pak Ihda.
Okay, great. And then our next one here from Danang. Danang Agung says, hello, Pak Samsul. Nice presentation topic. One, human error was one of favorite conclusion of the investigation report, maybe just because of flexible definition of human error itself, so somebody have to be blamed. How can we define, this is the question, how can we define the human error factor in more detail, especially for the investigation purpose?
Okay, Pak Danang is one team, is me, So, Pak Danang, thank you, Pak, for pointing that out. So it's interesting. So the old view for the human error, we need to the human error is just a label. So we put a label on something that we are not very much understand. It's easy, it's fast, and it can fulfill our emotional needs on the first reaction when the incident occurs. So we have anger, we have humiliate for management. So they have this one of the escape ways to put a human to put error. So the next one, I believe we don't categorize error as a cause. So we need to categorize, we need to look human error as a symptoms, as a symptom that our organization have a flow or have improvement opportunities over there. So we need to dig dive the error that is been that happened, and then we try to look what are the contributing factor, because people can be easily judged, and then because we don't actually see the whole picture for the context, or we don't people do something not because they're stupid, but because they have doing that according to their decision that is the best that is the best act to do according to their limited information that available for them in that time, and according to the training that they have been received for this time. So we need to understand the context or the local rationality why people do something like that. By understanding that, hopefully we can also learn more about the things that we need to improve.
Okay, great. Next question we have here from Haryadi Nugroho. His question is basically stick and carrot system. What is the effect of that to prevent human error?
Yeah, Pak Haryadi. So the stick and carrot, so punishment and the reward system. Yeah. In my opinion, it's not gonna be effective because it's like the bad apple theory. So we have a basket and we have plenty of apple over there, and we see that there's one or two apple that have been rotten. We put it out and let it go from the basket. So that's what happened right now in the organization, most of the organization, because we tend to see the people as that apple. One or two do the errors, and then we see that, okay, you're no longer going to be here, and we took them out from the basket, while in fact it's not them that causing the error. It's possibly because the basket have a sharp edge, or because the basket is not very well covered with a soft isolation or something like that. So they have been pressing when they're transporting that. So we need to look at the system holistically, this complex socio-technical system that we have, because in most of our operation, the causes and the consequence is not very much linear. They have a lot of things that contribute. So we need to understand that that's gonna be not gonna work. And if we do that kind of stuff, it will take out the learning opportunity, because people are gonna be afraid, and then they're gonna be covering up the information, or they're not gonna be reporting you most of the error that doesn't cause any consequences, while we can learn much from that, and then it will be better place for us to learn from the near misses or from the event that doesn't have any real consequences, rather than we punish them for if they already been they cannot cover a story for what happened on the field again. I think that's Pak Tommy.
Okay, great. Before we go to the next question here, and there's a lot of good questions here, I do want to ask for all the participants, we have put a link in the chat box. We'd like to get some feedback for this. If you would, please complete it while you're listening. And if not, copy the link and you can paste it in your browser, but your feedback would be really appreciated. So the next question that we have, Samsul, is about change management. So how the change management way of thinking from DuPont theory that mentioned accident is caused by unsafe act and condition, because in your explanation, the system also have its own space to make a worker make a mistake. That is the comment.
Oke, Pak Dodi ya, Pak Dodi Rahadiana Prayoga.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Apologies for not being.
So Pak Dodi, I think it's not from DuPont. So the earlier ones is from the Henrik. So and then the Henrik, they modified it from by Bird in 1940 something, which and Bird is also one of the DNV that can be developing all the system, and then that's possibly very that can be fit for their time. So it's been created in how much it's been around for 18 years, because it's been around in 1930 and 1940s. It's been 70 years for the theories. There has been a lot of development on the safety theory from the academic side. We have also the ergonomic, and we have also the latest that have been interesting. If you want to learn more, is about the normal accident theory from Norman, or the high reliability organization. So instead of learning about the accident and then how to avoid accident, let's learn how people do the safety on their high risk operation. So the high reliability organization is the concept that have been used for when the researchers do the research on a different industry. The first one is the aviation, and then the second one is the nuclear power plant, and then the third one is the ship carrier that bringing ship carrier from the U.S. Army. So they have this the same high risk operation, but they rarely have an accident. So it's very ultra safe operation. So they try to identify what are the contributing factor for them to become a better operation. So I think there's been development of the theories, and we can also see that those theory is possibly better in explaining the complexity of our operation, and it's also very much rational if we try to explore it a little bit. I think that's my comment, Pak.
Okay, thank you.
Too many questions, yeah, Pak. I feel overwhelmed. Yeah.
No, some really good questions. I like the interaction. It's great. Our next question from Muhammad Iksan Akbar says, "Great presentation, Pak Samsul. Thank you. My question: one, among 4 types of errors, which one occurs most frequently, especially in the oil and gas industry?" That's the first question. And then the second question is also, which one majority leads to major incident, an example, an LTI or fatality, etc., a lost time incident?
Okay, Pak. Thank you, Pak Muhammad Isan. It's very good question. Yeah. For the second question, I'm not very sure, but because there are different the major accident. If we talk about major accident, it's going to be discussing more about the process safety side, because it's going to be have multiple fatality, and then it's going to also possibly going to be impacting the society or the community that been surrounding the plant. Yeah. But for the first question, so the research coming up from the Skyberry, so they mentioned that for the 4 type of error, skill-based error, the skill-based error, the rule-based, and then the knowledge-based, most of the frequency is on the skill-based. So it's around 60% from the lapse and slips, and then lapse and slip, and then the 30% from the rule-based mistake, and 10% from the knowledge-based mistake. But that is because the job that we do is mostly in the form of the skill-based performance. So we already have those kind of we already understand the nature of the activities. This is very simple. This is very simple task. We tend to not to overthink that because it's very less requiring less thinking. And then the other one is the the rule based, because it sometimes the job gonna be we need to check on the procedure or the steps that we going to do, and not much of the tasks that we haven't seen that yet on the operation side, especially for the troubleshooting or the different equipment that being brought, and we're not very familiar with that kind of steps, or different brand that being put is different size or something like that, that can cause injury or the unwanted event. So I think the first one is the skill-based error, and then the leveling it to bottom. But all of that have related to the portion of that task that we do in our daily operation. So what I want to encourage is not to identify what we need to focus, but let's have a discussion with the team. For example, in those 1 days when we discuss a job safety analysis or the task that going to talk, what are these tasks is put in what category of this task. So after we identify this is a skill-based performance, so we discuss with the team what are the error trap that can be possible. For example, we possibly gonna forget about doing this if we have the people that not very we have interruption, when we also aware that there gotta be management visit on the site, so we need to have 1 or 2 mitigation to prevent them from distracting the worker that doing a very skill-based performance or not very much a lot of jobs, because that is possibly going to be more valuable for us to identify what job we do, and then identify what error type we will have, and to ensure that we have enough mitigation for that kind of event.
Okay, great, Samsul. Real quick question here from Hendy Cristanto. How can we minimize human error in any job?
How can we minimize human error in any job? Pak Hendy, nice question. Well, I think we cannot eliminate, just like my slide about the bow tie diagram, we cannot eliminate human error. It's part of our natural, or it's our inner blood, because it's the way God created us. It's very normal. So what we can is we set like my presentation, we have a system that is resist to the error or tolerate an error. I think that's fine.
Okay, great. Next question. We got a few more minutes. I think we got about 5 more minutes. From Johan Damping. Hi, Pak Samsul. What is the best way for reducing the blaming? When we talk about culture, blaming culture on a workplace, I guess, accident, if you want to maybe call it so.
Yeah, very interesting, Pak. Pak Johan, very interesting question. Yeah, the blaming culture is, I believe, this is who can blame the worker except for the upper level management. So the one step that we can do is to educate the higher level management on the reality of our behavior is not the human error is not a cause, and it's just a symptom of things that we need to improve on work system, and that we tell them also about how the job factor, individual factor, and the organizational factor influence their performance in a job. So I think one of that is, if we have education on the higher level management, they will have a different perspective on the worker when they have an accident related to human error. That they're not going to be pointing finger on the worker, but they will try to understand what happened, and then they will try to facilitate more learning on that event, so the organization going to be better. safe.
Okay, great. And I know I mentioned earlier we have 5 more minutes, but I would like to get through all the questions. So, for those that want to stick with us, we really appreciate it. So, next question we have here, we have about 2 more questions. So, the next question from Indra Mukroni. How to maintain safety behavior? That's the question. And then it says, the worker is already trained, but when the task is to be executed, an accident occurs or happens. Does periodically training, is it required, periodic training? And doesn't it, or will it cost the overweight with the management? Is there any better way to implement safety mitigation to management and of mid-level in a company? So I guess what the context of the question is basically is getting that requirement. What is required to management for the approval? Is I think is what the question is.
Okay, Pak. Thank you, Pak. Pak Indra. So my previous presentation is described that the slip and lapse, we cannot improve more on training for that kind of activities. Yeah. So on that categories, we cannot. The training is not very much effective on the slip or lapse. What we can do is to get a better design. For example, I go to one of the place and they put this the button for an emergency next to a button to open the door, gitu kan. So this is the security door, and then if we go to the toilet, we're gonna pass that area, and then if the visitor don't have the access for that area, they will need to push the button, and then the security gonna come and open it for us and verify. So in my opinion, that is not very safe design. So putting an emergency manual call point next to a button where they have to call the security. So one in those changes, they're gonna push the wrong button or gonna slip the wrong place, and that will cause error. Yeah. So the other one is labs. I think if we have designed the work, so I previously mentioned that the performance of the worker has been shaped by individual factor, job factor, and the organization factor. So if we design a job that have that require them to better job design. So for example, if we have provide them enough time, possibly they're not going to do a shortcut. For example, if we use GoFood or GoCar, they tend to cut the shortcut, go to the next to the different we have a street sign, and then they just pass that out here. And if we try, they're gonna shortcut the road or the having a counter flow on the street side, because they have this pressure to complete the job so they can have a better reward for themselves. So we need to design that kind of thing, because if we design the reward system based on how much they complete in one day, people gonna try to make more delivery or something like that. So they need to have more efficient way to reach the customer, and that is very normal. I think for the design of the job induce them to make an error. So I think we need to evaluate again our design and our job factor, also organization factor, which one that induce the worker to do the error, and do we have the resource adequate for them or appropriate for them to do the task safely. I think that is also one of our questions.
Okay, thank you, Pak Samsul. Next question. Hi, Pak Samsul. I have a concern about the bow tie system with the Great Map Plan. Why are some projects still have accidents that happen and that have created with a risk map on the bow tie system. Shall we have concern of the system or the human act itself to prevent any incident? So back to your bow tie system.
Okay, I think my short response is going to be a bow tie is very good to illustrate what are risks and what are mitigation, but it doesn't very much calculate the efficiency of those mitigation that we have in place. So I think we need to also have a different approach to ensure the effectiveness of the mitigation that we have on that, because it's gonna be very much a very beautiful bow tie diagram with all of those mitigation, but in fact on the real life, on the field side, operation side, those mitigation is not very effective in preventing the incident. Yeah. So I think there are some others tools also for risk assessment, risk management that we can use to have a better identify the hazard and the calculation of the risk depending on the activity that we will do. So different activities also need the different tools to have a better thorough assessment.
Great. Okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat, but I think I have one question. Finally. I have one question myself, Samsul, and it's kind of related to the pandemic. And there's been a lapse. There's been a lapse for almost 2 years, let's say, where we've had, we've been obviously in lockdowns and so on. There's been a lot of industries that have been affected, not only the oil and gas, aviation, and so on. Where do you see the occupational health and safety industry or professionals actually? Do you see there's going to be an increase coming? Obviously, when we pass the pandemic, the oil and gas industry is going to come back. Training is going to be required. That good experience has since moved on to other industries or maybe have retired. And the same is for, the airline industries. Equipment has been sitting for a long time. Has it been maintained? It's going to be a lot of variables and so I'm just asking yourself, and what is your outlook? And I would imagine that the occupational health and safety industry is going to be very busy and to come when the pandemic, when we get past it.
Thank you, Pak Tommy. Maybe I will only highlight one area, Pak. During this pandemic, we also have a very different approach on how we maintain our equipment or reliability of the equipment, the inspection, the calibration, the certification. That also one of the challenges that we have, because we pushing back the maintenance schedule, the overhaul system, because we don't have enough people on the work site, because we need to juggling, because there are people that have been positive and they need to do the isolation for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even more. Some of them have more than 1 month. So I think one of the challenge is going to be because this drag on the reliability of the facility, it will create also the risk on our facility reliability. I think that's one, because on the other side we have this training that been online, and that we need to evaluate, because we only check the box when we do the training. So hey, you already done the training, so you already passed that, but we doesn't really evaluate the effectiveness of the people's knowledge or the skill that we require them for them to interact with the real equipment on the site. So I think it's going to be a different challenge, and we also need to have a better look on the effect of the adaptation that we have in this during this time.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's actually going to be exciting, because I think with technology, how it's evolved, virtual reality training, there's a lot of things that are happening actually to fill that gap that you were talking about, instead of just e-learning modules and checking the box and so on. So yeah. Great. Okay, Samsul, well, thank you very much. I don't see any other questions in the chat box. I don't see anybody's hands raised. So I believe that's Yeah. I guess I'll pass it on back to our host, and we will conclude.
Thank you, Pak Tommy. I hope my presentation only sparked interest for the participant tonight, and then you haven't satisfied with my explanation and going search or dig it up more about this topic. Thank you for having me, Pak Tommy and SPE Java.
Thank you, Pak Samsul. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Tommy and Pak Samsul for the presentation and the Q&A session. Before we close this tonight session, please we want to give appreciation for our speaker and moderator. From Mbak Dian, are you here?
Yes, Revan.
Okay. Please give the certificate to the
Yeah, can
first
you show
one
the
is
certificate?
for the speaker. Maybe okay.
Okay. So, Pak Samsul, on behalf of SPE Java Indonesia section, we would like to present you with this certificate of appreciation. Yeah. Unfortunately, we cannot present it to you directly due to this condition. Everything is now virtual, but I hope this can reflect our appreciation. Definitely, because you are willing to participate, volunteer as a speaker, share your knowledge and experience in HSC, and we know HSC is very important to especially to save lives, yeah, for the workforce in not only in oil and gas industry, but also in any kind of industry. And I know the participants now in this event comes from any other industry besides oil and gas. There are mining, manufacturing, so we really appreciate your knowledge sharing. I hope you can accept our token of appreciation.
Thank you, Mbak Dian.
Okay, maybe we can take a picture together first. Maybe Mas Iksan, can you help us?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then. Sorry. All right.
Then
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Iksan. For the second one is for Pak Tony as our moderator. By the end, please.
yeah, so from the SPE Java Indonesia section, Pak Tommy, I know you're also our committee, but you volunteer as moderator, so we definitely have to appreciate you. Please accept our certificate, a token of appreciation on behalf of SPE Java Indonesia section. Yeah, hopefully you're willing also to moderate our upcoming events later on.
Yeah, my pleasure, Budia, and thank you very much. And thank you, Pak Samsul. It was a really great presentation. So.
So maybe, Isan, we document this first.
Yes, sure. Pak Tommy, can you speak again, Pak? So your display appeared.
I'm sorry. Okay, can you hear it now? You can
Okay,
see?
yes, perfect. I can see you.
Okay.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Perfect, Pak Tommy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Revan.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Dian. For all the participants, before we close the event, I want to remind you, if you are curious or if you want to join in the next event in Member Virtual Talk Series 3 or later, if you want to be a speaker or moderator in our event, please feel free to fill our form in the chat box that already shared by Mbak Dian, and we will share again in the WhatsApp group. So, and if you have any question about this event, you can ask me and other committee feel free to ask about the event, about the anything. And maybe that's all for me. Apologize for mistakes that made for this event. Thank you, everyone. See you in Member Virtual Talk Series 3.
See you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you again. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam, Pak
Waalaikumsalam.
Samsul. Terima kasih, Pak.
Kasih sama-sama, Bu.